You know, something that most people don't realize and that you alluded to earlier is that in the 21st century, a priest and a parishioner can still obtain permission for an exorcism. This is part of the life of the church.
Yes.
It's very interesting.
And, you know, I'm going to make very general statements about this, but in Vatican II concluded, Second Vatican Council concluded in 1965. And that brought about a lot of reforms within the church.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, after 2,000 years of existence, finally got to say the Mass, which is the center of Catholic worship, in English. Mm-hmm. So, you know, up until then it was in Latin. Mm-hmm. You know, there was a lot more interfaith dialogue. So the church really began reaching out to other religions in a way that it hadn't before in its 2,000-year history. You know, the idea of psychology as a way of understanding, you know, yourself and understanding God became very, very, very important. What was lost, at least in my opinion, a little bit, and again, this is just kind of anecdotally, or an anecdotal statement, it seems to be a loss of the supernatural, a loss of, you know, that there are things beyond us. A certain form of materialism, even. And with the church's best intention, of course, just trying to modernize itself. So the idea of spirits and devils and, you know, a war between good and bad was kind of pushed to the background. It never really completely went away. But it was something that people just didn't really talk about anymore. And there were definitely, you know, mystics and writers who would bring this up, but they would talk about it, for the most part, in psychological terms or sociological terms. But, you know, so you see the pendulum swing this way, and it's starting to swing back now. So much so that in 2004, and Pope John Paul II really, you know, was a strong believer in the fact that evil can exist, is an entity. You know, it's not just social problems, it's not just psychological problems, that there is a living entity, and this thing is evil, whether it be the devil, Satan, whatever, that people can be overcome by demons. People can be possessed by demons. So he really started to bring this back into dialogue, or started dialoguing about these things. So much so that in 2004, right before he passed away, the Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith issued a statement, at least for the United States churches, that every church should begin training an exorcist.
Is that a fact?
So in 2000, so every diocese should have an exorcist. Now I'm not sure. There may be a time frame on when that's supposed to happen. But the Vatican started teaching classes in Vatican City, and on how to be an exorcist and how to deal with evil as an entity, and how to deal with you know, and these things are not things to be taken lightly. You know, if someone is someone's raving about, you know, hearing things inside their head, the church wants that person to go see a doctor, wants to be consulted by a number of psychologists. If after all of that, you know, it turns out, no, this person is of sound mind, but there's something else going on here, they'll a petition can be made to the bishop for an exorcism, for the dispelling of a spirit that seems to have invaded someone else.
You know, what's interesting, something that's made a deep impression on me with respect to church doctrine that I think critics simply don't understand, is that the church may be the one organization in modern life that has a very rigorous, definite protocol for examining the paranormal. People step forward with claims, and eyewitness claims are not enough. Physical evidence is not enough. The church goes through terrific rigor, as I think you've pointed out, in investigating claims of the paranormal.
Yes, and I think, you know, and I can understand why that's so rigorous. You don't want to, you know, give carte blanche to paranormal experiences or strange things. You're going to look foolish, because there are plenty of people that, you know, that either maybe have a psychological problem, or maybe, you know, misidentify information, or, you know, there could be rats inside someone's wall, and you hear scratching, and you think, oh my God, it's a demon. And just so we checked, there's no rats or anything in the house, no squirrels, you know, upstairs when all this stuff was going on. So I mean, I think there is this real sense of, you know, good and evil, and that really good stuff exists as an entity, which are angels, and really bad stuff exists as demons. And that these things influence our lives. That there is this incredibly diverse and powerful invisible world that you don't really hear about too much when you go to mass on Sundays. I mean, it's within the tradition. Angels and demons are not literary conceits. They're not metaphors. They are real entities that the church believes in, and it's not really talked about all that much. And I think the big reason why is because you're supposed to keep your eyes focused on God, and that these things do have a tendency to to run away with these or the ideas of the spirit world, whether it be an angel or a demon. You get really kind of caught up on that, and you can end up shifting your focus away from God, which is what's supposed to be most important for us, for all of us, as individuals, is to really kind of focus our attention on God.
I wanted to ask you about the aftermath of a supernatural experience. One of the things that I've always found disappointing in human nature is that sometimes people will describe with great sincerity a supernatural experience, and in some cases it doesn't seem to change the individual at all. It doesn't put a dent in our materialism or in how we conduct our daily lives. What's been your experience, and how has the supernatural left a remaining influence on you?
It was the most life-affirming experience. Of course, it was the birth of my children. That was an incredible life-affirming experience. This paranormal experience changed the way I view the world, everything, the way I view the world, and the way I view the afterlife, which I think in the past was really just about, it was an idea. This seemed to really bring something out of me, that there was a transformation that occurred, that there was something that just made me look at people and life differently. Now, I'm an incredibly flawed creature. I do make lots of mistakes, but I really think it gave me an appreciation for the living and the dead, and the people who have passed on in a way that I never really paid attention to, and also about the things that you say. And I think a lot of what happened had a lot to do with some of the things I was doing, a lot of things I was saying in my life, so it was a life-affirming experience. And I think the thing that really kind of I've read a lot of ghost stories since this experience, just to do more and more research and get myself familiar with everything. And few people pray for these ghosts. They get freaked out, and then maybe they get rid of them, and then they go on and, as you were saying, and just lead their life. But I really think that maybe what we're supposed to learn from this is that spirits need our help, and maybe the way to do that is to pray for them and to help guide them. You don't really hear it too much in the way of ghost stories, someone having a haunting, a real serious haunting, and then trying to help those ghosts. It happens sometimes. But I think what really was a blessing for me was that I had the opportunity to help them in a very small way. And that really transformed the way I see just life and death.